Jeffrey Epstein and Thomas Crooks are two of the most notorious figures in recent American history. Both men have been credibly accused of horrendous crimes, and both assumed room temperature before standing trial for their actions. While the evidence against them is overwhelming, I will refer to them as suspects only because they were not found guilty in a court of law. This video is not about what they were accused of doing, but rather what private citizens have learned about them from cell phone location data obtained from data brokers. I am Dr. John Padfield, an engineer turned state representative turned business professor, and this is Business Reform, where we discuss issues at the intersection of business, technology, and society. To better understand the significance of what private citizens have uncovered from cell phone data, we need to briefly examine a few key events related to Jeffrey Epstein. In June 2008, Epstein pled guilty to a Florida felony charge of soliciting a minor. Fast forward 11 years to July 6, 2019, when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested again, and an FBI team, led by Special Agent Kelly McGuire, began a 2-day raid and search of Epstein's 8-story, 19,000-square-foot townhouse in Manhattan. That raid began with the FBI, quote, using a crowbar to break the grand doors of one of the largest private homes in Manhattan, end quote. Remember, the FBI planned ahead and brought a crowbar to help them break into Epstein's townhouse. This will be important later. What did the FBI find in the townhouse? Quote, federal agents found a vast trove of lewd photographs of young girls, including at least one girl who was underage when her photos were taken. Agents also discovered in a locked safe compact disc with handwritten labels indicating the disc likely contained illegal content. The FBI also found and photographed a bin and a drawer full of hard drives and CDs. The photographs taken by the FBI search team are proof the FBI also planned ahead and brought at least one camera with them to the raid. If you are wondering how the FBI got that locked safe open, it was easy. The FBI planned ahead and brought an industrial cutting saw with them. If you are wondering whatever happened to all of those CDs and hard drives the FBI found and photographed in Epstein's townhouse, the answer is they all just disappeared. That is not speculation. That is the sworn testimony of Special Agent Kelly McGuire gave under oath in Ghislaine Maxwell's underage sex trafficking trial. Quote, FBI Special Agent Kelly McGuire testified in 2019 that during the raid on Epstein's residence, FBI agents found a safe with CDs, computer hard drives, money, jewelry, and passports. During her testimony, McGuire said that FBI agents did not have a valid warrant to remove the evidence, so instead they photographed them. A few days later, when they returned to obtain evidence, it was gone. As always, links to all of my sources are in the description of this video. So Special Agent McGuire's FBI team planned ahead and remembered to bring a crowbar to break into Epstein's townhouse. Her team also planned ahead and remembered to bring an industrial saw with them to get into Epstein's safe. Her team even planned ahead and remembered to bring at least one camera to photograph evidence. They just forgot to get a search warrant to seize the evidence they found. Remember, the townhouse was 8 stories and 19,000 square feet, so the FBI spent 2 entire days searching the townhouse. It would have been bad enough if they didn't have a proper warrant on day 1, but you would think at least they would have a warrant on day 2. Or at a bare minimum, they would have left an agent in place to watch the property and come back the following day with a warrant. But instead, after breaking the front door with a crowbar, they left the townhouse unguarded for days, giving ample time for someone to enter the home and remove evidence. I can't imagine why anyone would think the FBI was complicit in protecting Epstein's clients. However, just a few weeks later, the FBI got a do-over. On Monday, August 12, 2019, the FBI raided Epstein's private island in the Caribbean, and this time they actually took possession of multiple computers and hard drives. That same day, August 12, 2019, then Attorney General William Barr vowed, quote, the investigation into Epstein's alleged conduct would continue, and that, quote, any co-conspirator should not rest easy. The victims deserve justice, and they will get it. As of the recording of this video on December 13th, 2024, it has been 1,950 days since Attorney General Barr made that vow. As of today, 1,950 days after making that vow, the FBI has brought charges against exactly 0 of Epstein's clients. Keep in mind the FBI has 35,000 employees and an annual budget of over $10 billion per year. So over the past 5.5 years, the FBI has spent 192,000 man-years of effort and approximately $55 billion, which have led to exactly 0 indictments of Epstein's clients. Now, before anyone gets upset and thinks the FBI hasn't been doing anything, that is simply not true. They have been very busy investigating parents who criticize local school boards and spying on Catholics who attend Latin Mass. But I'm sure the FBI can walk and chew gum at the same time. Just because they haven't indicted any of Epstein's clients doesn't mean they quit investigating all the people who flew on Epstein's Lolita Express to Orgy Island. Or does it? On June 4th, 2024, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana asked FBI Director Christopher Wray about the status of the Epstein investigation.
Is the FBI still investigating this, or are these prominent people going to go scot-free?
I'm not sure that I can tell you whether or not there is ongoing work being devoted to this.
That exchange happened 4 years and 10 months after Attorney General William Barr said Epstein's victims deserve justice and they will get it. But Director Wray didn't even know if the investigation was ongoing or if it had been concluded. I still can't imagine why anyone would think the FBI is complicit in protecting Epstein's clients. But here is where it gets really interesting. Wired magazine is an organization with approximately 180 employees. They do not have a multi-billion-dollar budget, nor do they have the ability to apply for a warrant or issue subpoenas. But they obtain cell phone data from a data broker that shows all the cell phones that visited Epstein Island between July 2016 and July 2019. That data not only shows how long each phone was on the island, but everywhere it went on the island. And even more interesting, when the owners of those phones went home, the data reveals where 200-plus visitors from the United States live and work. In other words, private citizens working for a technology magazine have made more progress on tracking down Epstein's clients than the FBI has made in the past 5.5 years. Wired knows the exact home and work addresses of the visitors to Epstein Island, but they do not know which of them may have been clients versus victims versus third parties who may have been visiting the island for other purposes, so they have not released the names and addresses of the people they know who were on the island. And by the way, if you are wondering about visitors to Epstein Island from Europe, they certainly exist as well, but due to privacy laws in Europe, Wired magazine was not able to follow those phones back to their home and work addresses. That brings us to Thomas Crooks. Google Trends shows public interest in him peaked on Sunday, July 14th, and dropped by 93% over the following 2 days. This appears to closely track how quickly the FBI lost interest in the case as well. They never did figure out Crooks' motive, so this seems to have become a cold case. In fact, 12 days after Thomas Crooks attempted to assassinate President Trump, FBI Director Wray testified under oath to a House Oversight Committee that he wasn't sure if President Trump had actually been struck by one of Crooks' bullets. You literally can't make this stuff up. But again, this story gets more interesting because of what private citizens have done. Private citizens, without warrants or subpoenas or multi-billion-dollar budgets, seem to have made more progress on this investigation than the FBI. In this case, it was the Heritage Foundation's oversight project that purchased cell phone data from a data broker. Before I go any further, this video is not an endorsement of Heritage Foundation. I do not automatically believe what they are claiming, but at the same time, I cannot automatically dismiss what they are claiming. What exactly did the Heritage Foundation find in the cell phone location data related to Thomas Crooks? They purchased data on every cellular device, phones, tablets, and smartwatches, that visited Crooks' home and place of employment in the 12 months leading up to Crooks' assassination attempt on President Trump. They found there were 10 electronic devices that visited both his home and place of employment during that time. Just as Wired magazine did with cell data from visitors to Epstein Island, the Heritage Foundation followed these cellular devices that visited Crooks' home and place of employment. Some of those devices undoubtedly belong to Crooks' family, and others likely belong to friends or coworkers. The Heritage Foundation followed one device through a series of flights it made in March of this year. They followed another device that visited his home and work locations to a gun shop. Another device was followed across many locations in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, such as a laundromat, golf course, and a Planet Fitness. Another device, which had visited Crooks' home and work location multiple times, traveled to Butler, Pennsylvania on both July 4th and July 8th. Then that particular device stopped all activity on July 12th, the day before the assassination attempt. But most interestingly, one of the devices that visited Crooks' home and work location was tracked to Gallery Place on 7th Street Northwest in Washington, D.C., which happens to be within 3 blocks of an FBI office. What does all of this mean? I don't know. I am not making any accusations, but I find this data, purchased and analyzed by a private organization, to be extremely interesting, and it certainly raises more questions than it answers. I would love to know who those phones belong to that traveled to Washington, D.C., and that made those trips to Butler, Pennsylvania, just 9 days and 5 days prior to the assassination attempt on President Trump. I want to be clear, I still do not like the idea of data brokers collecting and selling people's location history. I find it deeply invasive. But Congress has consistently refused to crack down on companies that traffic our personal data, including our location data. At the same time, private citizens have now proven, by purchasing location data from data brokers, they can make more progress on certain investigations than 35,000 FBI employees with an $11 billion per year budget. Is it time for private citizens to launch more investigations by purchasing location data on these guys to find out who's visiting their homes and or where they are traveling and who they are meeting with? By purchasing location data on House Speaker Mike Johnson, we might figure out who convinced him to flip-flop this past April from his long-held position that warrants should be required for FISA to his new position that requiring warrants would be too much of a burden on law enforcement. I say this in every video, but I truly mean it. I want to know what you think. As much as I dislike the idea of everyone's location history being for sale to anyone with a credit card, is it time to quit fighting it and start using it? Since the information is legally available, what investigations would you like to see launched into what political figures or American oligarchs are doing? I look forward to reading your comments. If you have ideas you want to share with me privately, please email me at businessreform@proton.me.